Davis was not mentioned, however. What do you say about that, Mr. Davis?
Cat's out of the bag, it seems. I better admit my name isn't Davis.
You are William Henry Blore.
That's right.
Well, not only are you here under a false name, Mr. Blore, but you're a first-class flyer as well. You claim to have come from Natal, South Africa. Well, I know South Africa and Natal well, and I'm prepared to swear that you've never set foot there in your life.
You gentlemen have got me all wrong. I'm an ex-CID man.
Oh, a cop.
I've got my credentials and I can prove it. I run a detective agency in Plymouth. I was put onto this job.
By whom?
By Mr. Owen. Sent a very nice money order for expenses and said I was to join the house party posing as a guest. He also sent a list of all your names and said I was to keep an eye on you all.
Any reason given?
It was said Mrs. Owen had some valuable jewels. Mrs. Owen, my foot. I don't believe there's any such person.
Your conclusions are, I think, justified. Ulick Norman Owen. Una Nancy Owen. Each time, that is to say, U.N. Owen. Or, by a slight stretch of fancy, unknown.
This is fantastic. Matt!
Oh yes! I have no doubt in my mind that we have all been invited here by a madman. Probably a dangerous homicidal lunatic. Whoever it is that has enticed us here, that person has taken the trouble to find out a great deal about us. A very great deal. And out of the information he has concerning us, he has made certain definite accusations. Most to say this. Our unknown host accuses me of the murder of Edward C. Now, I remember seeing perfectly well. He came up before me for trial in June 1930. He was charged with the murder of an elderly woman. He was very ably defended and made a good impression on the jury in the witness box. Nevertheless, based on the evidence, he was certainly guilty. I summed up accordingly, and the jury brought in the verdict of guilty. In passing the sentence of death, I fully concur with this verdict. I wish to say before you all that my conscience is perfectly clear on this matter. I did my duty and nothing more.
Did you know Seton at all? I mean, personally.
I knew nothing of Seton previous to the trial.
The old boy's lying. I'll swear he's lying.
I've just been thinking. John and Lucy Combs. Must have been a couple of kids I ran over near Cambridge.
Beastly bad luck. For them or for you?
Well, I was thinking for me, but it was pretty bad for them too. Of course, it was a pure accident. They ran out of some cottage grove. I had my license suspended for a year. Beastly nuisance.
Fellow's a madman. Absolute madman. Gonna beam his fun. Gonna hold to the wrong end of the stick all around. No truth. No truth whatsoever when he said about young Dr. Richmond. Richmond was one of my officers. I sent him on reconnaissance in 1917. He was killed. I'd also like to say, I resent very much the slur on my life. Been dead a long time.
Might I just say a word, sir?
Go ahead, Rogers.
There's a mention, sir, of me and Mrs. Rogers and Miss Jennifer Brady. There isn't a word of truth in it. We were with Mrs. Brady when she died. She was always in the courthouse, sir, always, from the time we came to her. The storm, sir, the night she died. The telephone was out of order. We couldn't get a doctor to her. I went for him, sir, on foot. We got there too late. We done everything we could for her, sir. Devoted to her we were. Anybody would have told you the same. There was never a word said against us. Never a word.
Came into a nice little something out of death, I suppose, didn't you?
Miss Brady left us a legacy in recognition of our faithful services. And why not, I'd like to know?
What about yourself, Mr. Blore?
What about me?
Your name was on the list.
I know. Landor, you mean? That was the London Commercial Bank robbery.
I remember that case, though it didn't come up before me. Landor was convicted on your evidence. You were the police officer in charge of that case.
I was.
Landor got penal servitude for life and died in Dartmoor a year later. He was a delicate man.
He was a crook. It was him who put the night watchman out. Case was clear from the start.
You were, complimented, I think, on your able handling of the case.
I got my promotion. I was only doing my duty.
Convenient word. Duty. What about you, Doctor?
I'm at a loss to understand this matter. The name meant nothing to me. This whole thing's a complete mystery to me. Of course, it might possibly be one of my operation cases in the hospital. They come too late, so many of these people.
And then when the patient dies, it's always the surgeon's fault.
And then it's better to take up nerve cases and give up surgeries. Some, of course, give up drink.
I protest. You've no right to insinuate such things. I never such up.
My dear fellow, I never suggested you did.
Miss Claythorne.
I was nursery governess to Peter Hamilton. We were in Cornwall for the summer, and he was forbidden to swim out far. One day when my attention was distracted, he started off. As soon as I saw what happened, of course I swam after him. I just couldn't get there in time.
There was an inquest.
Yes. I was exonerated by the coroner, and his mother didn't blame me either.
Thank you. Miss Brent.
I have nothing to say.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You reserve your defense.
There's no question of defense. I've always acted according to the dictates of my conscience.
What a law-abiding lot we all seem to be. Myself excepted.
We're still waiting for your story, Captain Longlord.
I haven't got a story.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint all of you. It's just that I plead guilty. It's perfectly true. I left those natives alone in the bush, a matter of self-preservation.
You abandoned your men?
Well, not quite the act of a Puka Sahib, I'm afraid. But after all, self-preservation is a man's first duty. The natives don't mind dying, you know. They don't feel about it as Europeans do.
Our inquiry rests there. And now then, Rogers, who else is there on this island besides ourselves and you and your wife?
Nobody, sir. Nobody at all.
You're quite sure of that.
Quite sure, sir.
Thank you. Don't go just yet, Rogers. I'm not yet sure as to the purpose of our unknown host in gathering us all here, but in my opinion, he's not sane. Not in the normal sense of the word. He may be dangerous. In my opinion, it would be best if we left this place as soon as possible. I suggest we leave tonight.
Pardon me, sir, but there's no boat on the island.
No boat at all?
No, sir.
Well, can't you just telephone to the mainland?
There's no telephone either, sir. You see, Narracott comes over every morning. He brings the bread, the eggs, the milk, the post, the papers, and he takes the orders.
Then I suggest we leave as soon as Narracott's boat arrives.
No! You've been unsporting what? We gotta ferret out this mystery before we go. This whole thing is like a detective story. Positively thrilling.
My time of life, I have no desire for thrills.
The legal life's narrow. I'm all for crime. Here's to it.
Oh my God, he's dead.
Dead? Do you mean the fellow just choked and died?
You can call it choking with right. He died of asphyxiation right enough.
I never knew a man could die like that. Just like a choking fit.
In the midst of life, we are in death.
Man, it doesn't die when you're choking, General. Marston's death isn't what we call a natural death.
Was there something in the whiskey?
Yes, by the smell of its cyanide, probably potassium cyanide, acts pretty well instantaneously.
And he must have put the stuff in the glass himself.
Seems like it.
Suicide, huh? That's a wrong go.
But you'd never think he'd commit suicide. He was so alive. He was enjoying himself.